Go. When going becomes your modus operandi, life gets crazy good. Chapter 6, Kick the Can't. There are large areas in our world today where the gospel is nearly non-existent. These areas in the world are where the unreached people groups live. We'll look at the unreached situation closer in a later chapter, but one of the main reasons they exist today is because of where they are located. Many are in what's often referred to as restricted access areas. These are areas where the work of missions is illegal or highly frowned upon. In many cases, it is flat out dangerous to share the gospel, to worship with other believers, or to distribute Bibles. Because of the danger, a very low percentage of missionaries are working there. But Jesus didn't say to go to just the safe places, or to the places that are easy to get to, or to the areas of the world where Christianity is common, or to places where the weather is moderate, or to places that are culturally similar to yours, or to places where they speak your language, or to places ... I think you get the point. Some years ago, we had an excellent speaker in one of our discipleship training schools spend a week with us. He was an experienced missions mobilizer and had been working in that field for decades. One evening during the week, Janet and I had him over to our house for supper. It was so good spending time with him. While we were talking, we shared with him about a vision that some of our staff had concerning the Maldive Islands. The vision had actually started a couple years previously during a prayer meeting. I was leading the time of prayer and came across these islands during my preparation. Before reading about them, I don't remember ever hearing about the Maldives, and I had no idea where they were located or what the people were like who lived there. The time of prayer was with 4 other YWAM bases as we were combining our schools for the week. When I asked the group of around 150 people who knew about the Maldives, very few hands went up. But we were all excited to pray for the people living there because they were predominantly Muslim. In fact, they consider themselves to be 100% Muslim as a country. So we prayed and asked the Lord to move among the people of the Maldives. But the Lord had even greater plans than we thought, as he dropped into the heart of a few of the students a burning passion to reach these people. Within a short time, we had a team of 6 people planning to move to the Maldive Islands for the purpose of reaching them with the gospel. I shared this story with our dinner guest that evening and was surprised at his response. He told us that we could never get a long-term team into the Maldives. Islam was too strong, the islands were too small, making the presence of a group of Americans overly conspicuous, and obtaining long-term visas would be impossible. This seasoned missionary said, "You can't do it." I have to admit that when someone says, "you can't," I get a little more excited about doing it. This is especially the case when the original idea has come during a time of prayer. After a season of preparation, our team moved to the Maldive Islands. They made many friends, were invited to the presidential palace more than once, and shared the good news of Jesus with many. It is exciting to see how the Lord can use people who are committed to going to the places where they can't go. At the beginning of what's known as the Great Commission in Matthew 28, it says, "And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, 'All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth.'" That's verse 18. There is no government, dictator, president, army, or any other authority that is over or above him. When Jesus leads you to do something, even when it can't be done, go do it. For many years, the most restrictive country in the world has been North Korea. This is especially true when it comes to Americans. There is no way that we could go to North Korea, right? You may hear something like that on the news, from your pastor, from a family member or friend, or from many other well-meaning people. But again, if Jesus is leading you to go to North Korea, who are you going to believe? I decided to believe Jesus. I got a team of 6 people together who all wanted to go. We did some research and found a travel agency in China who could connect us to a believer in North Korea. Before long, our airline tickets were bought to China and the adventure would begin. The travel agency arranged transportation to the border of North Korea, and once we passed through immigration, we were met by a government-owned North Korean tour company. Taking an old bus across the river into North Korea to the immigration office was one of those rather exhilarating experiences that only come to those who go. Once in the office, you could cut the tension with a knife as they examined our phones, searched our luggage, and asked probing questions. While most of the time we were under the direct supervision and direction of our government-appointed guides, we were still able to pray for God to move. One of the afternoons we ended up at a farm where followers of Jesus lived. With the government officials watching, we had a time of worship and prayer. It was amazing. Even though it was a short trip, it still is one of my favorites. The lack of gospel awareness was hard to grasp, and this won't change much if believers keep believing the lie that you can't go there. When Jesus said to go into all the world, he meant all of the world. About 5 years ago, a friend contacted me to see if I'd be interested in going to Saudi Arabia with him. My modus operandi to go, with that, my reaction was yes. I had been there previously by myself, but thought a return visit would be great. So I sent my passport into the Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C., as I had done before in order to obtain a visa. This time I received a call from the embassy that went something like this. Embassy, we have your passport. Me, yes, I know. Embassy, before giving you a visa, we want to see you in person here at our embassy. Me, no, that won't be possible. Embassy, okay then, no visa will be issued. I contacted my friend and told him about the conversation and how I was a little surprised. As we talked, he mentioned that he has a friend who has a friend who lives in Saudi. We agreed that reaching out to him might be a good idea. It wasn't a week or so after our conversation that I received an invitation letter in the mail from this man in Saudi. I sent my passport with the letter back to the Saudi embassy and within a few days had the visa. After doing a little research on this man in Saudi, I came to find out that he is a very influential man in the Middle East. I was reminded of the saying, it's not what you know, but who you know. We decided we would meet in Dubai and fly together into Saudi. When I arrived in Dubai, my friend was there with surprising news. The man who had sent us the invitation letter was going to have a driver pick us up at the airport and take us to our hotel. That was a nice gesture, as we usually don't have people standing in the reception halls of airports with a sign listing our names. But sure enough, the driver was there and we headed to the hotel. On the way, we were again surprised as the driver told us the man of influence would like to meet us at the hotel in the evening. We were excited and a little uneasy about the meeting. As we were sitting in the lobby of the hotel, in walks this man and he comes up to us, being that we were the only Americans in sight, and introduces himself. We were having a very pleasant conversation and then he asked us why we wanted to come to Saudi. My friend told the truth, that we didn't have an agenda, but just wanted to tell people about Jesus. Fortunately, the man didn't yell, Allahu Akbar, and blow us up. Instead, he was very kind and interested in spending more time with us. In fact, as he left the hotel, he asked us if we'd like to go swimming the next day in the Red Sea. Of course, we said we'd love to. The next day he picked us up, and we had a wonderful time swimming and enjoying the beach. As he was taking us back to the hotel, he said that he had arranged a gathering that evening at another person's house, and they wanted us to join them. We again accepted the invitation. A driver picked us up at our hotel and took us to a beautiful home for the evening. When we entered, we were greeted by a rather large group of local people, and sitting in a large circle, we found the topic for the evening would be Jesus. It was incredible, shocking, exciting, unbelievable, and challenging. Jesus was clearly exalted, and we were in awe. The next day, 3 more appointments were set for us, and in each one, the topic of discussion was Jesus. It was a trip like none I had ever had before. We were blessed with opportunities to share the reality of who Jesus is to sheikhs, doctors, business leaders, and even officers in the Saudi military. While many would say, "You can't do that," I know you can, because we did. We kicked the can't due to our commitment to going. If you don't go, you can't. But if you do go, kick the can't and let the adventures begin. In the context of missions, this can't word isn't only used when referring to places. It is often used in what you do. Many years ago, when Janet and I were serving at YWAM Nashville, we took an outreach to Mexico. The team we were leading was filled with fired-up young people who wanted to preach the gospel. After the long drive from Nashville to Mexico City, we moved our gear into the church that we'd be sleeping in. The team was raring to go, so we decided that at 1 p.m. the next day, we would hit the streets to do evangelism. At 11 a.m. that next day, a young man by the name of Isaac shows up at the church and wants to talk with me. He had heard that some Americans were going to be staying at the church and wondered if we needed a translator. It would have been very difficult to be effective had Isaac not come. But when you decide to go, even when everything isn't figured out yet, the Lord shows up. Remember the last line of the Great Commission in Matthew 28. It says this, "And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." I heard it said this way, "No go, no low." We went out on the streets that afternoon, and with Isaac's help saw many people come to faith. The crazy thing was that Isaac himself wasn't a believer yet. But after leading many in praying to accept Jesus that day, Isaac gave his heart to the Lord in the evening. God blesses obedience with fruit. There is something about stepping out in faith when it can't be done. When we are committed to doing the possible, God is inclined to do the impossible. After the past couple years of dealing with the COVID pandemic, Zoom has become quite common. But before the pandemic hit the U.S. in early 2020, a few of us had already started using Zoom as a way of going. And wouldn't you know it, that the nation where we had the largest number of interested people was China. During the first week of January 2020, we started what we called Lifestyle DMM. It was a weekly meeting online using Zoom, where 4 of us taught principles of disciple-making movements to a group of Chinese believers. Within a couple months after starting the training, we could not have gone to China because of the COVID lockdowns, but we were still able to go through technology. The next time you hear the word can't, I hope you'll kick that can't back to where it came from. Our God is able to do far more abundantly beyond all that we ask or think. Ephesians 3 verse 20. So let's not allow the you can't go there or you can't do that from others guiding our lives. As going becomes more and more a part of your modus operandi, you're going to need that faith that can move mountains. We just need to replace the you can't with the truth that He can.